We want you to be a part of our studio audience. If you're in the Toronto area, contact us.
Well, and here are the results for our audience poll where we asked, is it realistic to take one day a week for rest? And most of our audience said yes. The conversation continues online. Tell us what you think. Our contact info is on the screen, but the audience is still talking about this. Nim, you have an opinion about this idea of rest being a regular, expected part of your week.
My comment is, I think in this time of age, we focus so much on productivity. We want to be productive, so we just keep working, and then we focus less on resting.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Andy, you've got a thought too about this culture of speed up or should I rest? What's your thought?
Well, looking at myself and how I always want to do more, and looking at what Solomon taught us, and he who rules over himself is better than he who rules over a city. Or I will not be able to go and walk through life and shine light unless I know myself and I take time not only to rest my physical body, but also my mind, and reflect on my morals and values that I am supposed to carry and show others, to bear the good fruit, to shine the good light for them to see me as the loving person I am supposed to be.
All right, fascinating, Andy. Thank you. Well, what is the root of recovery when burnout nearly wipes you out? Author and pastor Mark Buchanan has some answers on that. Mark Buchanan was part of a growing church, always in demand and on the road speaking, engagements, and all kinds of different things. And he says it all became too much. His book, The Rest of God, has been voted one of the top 10 books on the subject of rest. Mark, tell us, what did work burnout look like for you?
Lauren, I was dangerously overextended. I was having a lot of fun until it wasn't. A lot of different demands on me, and I was saying yes to all of them. And then at some point I realized that there is no gun to my head, there is no goat in my ribs, nobody is breathing down my neck, but there is some inner compulsion that I had that I kept having to go and not stop. And finally I just got to the place where I was going to collapse if I didn't do something about it.
How many hours was that a week? What did it look like for you?
You know, it's probably about 55, 60 hours a week, so it wasn't extraordinary in terms of, corporate world, but it was the drivenness and the manyness. So it was a sense of I have to go faster, I have to do more in less time, and just the sheer volume of things that I was trying to accomplish in a given hour or a given day.
So how did you come to practice a day of rest per week?
Well, I got to the point where I was angry at a lot of people. I was angry at my workplace, I was angry at my family, I was angry at God, and I felt that somehow that I had been lured into a line of work that there was no way of doing it with the strength I had and the wit I had. And then I began to discover this incredible gift of Sabbath, that for one day a week you can just stop. You have divine permission to stop doing what you're doing and divine permission to get restored in your inmost places. And I just began to practice that and see almost immediately remarkable results.
Okay, so you have broken down the Greek meaning of the word time. You think one of the reasons we're not taking rest is we're only understanding time in the one dimension. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the Greek word that is commonly used for time is chronos, and we have our word chronology or chronic. Chronicle, etc., comes from that root, and it means time as we understand it by clock and calendar. So it just keeps moving down, there's no stopping it, and you only have a limited amount, and you have to get done what you need to get done within that chronos. There's this other word, kairos, which is seasonal time, or the time for. And it's a much richer word in the Greek because it understands time as moving through seasons. And when I began to understand that and realize that I was almost doing all my time on a chronological or chronic scale and almost none in the seasonal scale, saying, what is this a time for? Is it a time to rest? Is it a time to play? A time to work, a time to work hard, a time to push forward, a time to lay back. And once I began to understand that and apply that simple concept to each hour of my day, it just kind of unlocks something for me.
But you also think that the season should come at least once a week, one in every 7 days. There should be time for worship and rest. No negotiation
Lorna.
around that?
No, I mean, I'm not legalistic or, to the point where I'm going to make having to rest the new work. But I think that we've tested the theory. Can we go much more than 7 days or 6 days without really significant rest? And I think we're getting the jury's back in on that. And we have an exhausted population. We have a generation that's going all the time, reflecting less, enjoying things less. So I would just make an argument on that basis alone. Why don't you try this every 6th day? The 7th is all yours to enjoy, and see what difference it makes.
And what do you think the intention of God was to set up a cycle like that? What does that tell us about God's character?
Well, the incredible goodness of God. That I love how Peter Scazzero describes Sabbath. He says it's 52 snow days a year. So I know, we don't get this in Vancouver and Victoria, Lorna, but in Toronto, in New York, those places, you get those snow days and everything shuts down, and you take it as a gift. What Sabbath is a snow day, that you are given this divine permission that you can stop, you can breathe, you can enjoy creation rather than trying to create. Who wouldn't want that?
All right, Mark Buchanan in Victoria, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorna.
What prevents you from sometimes being able to rest 1 day a week? We'd love to hear your opinion. Give us a call at our viewer feedback line or send us a note on email or Facebook. And we'll give you our studio audience results after the break. But when we come back, I'll give you my advice on my personal tipping point on taking a day of rest. Well, and here are the results for our audience poll. Over half of our audience, well, just about half, job pressures are preventing them from being able to take a day off a week. Well, the conversation continues online. Tell us what you think. Well, I'll try to smile, not too much, when I'm making a conclusion about Sabbath today. I've been around the block a few times on this tension about rest. And here's the tipping point for me. If God is good, He gives good gifts. But you've got to unwrap those gifts. Just sink your feet into the proverbial grass and soak in the sun and enjoy being pampered in the luxury of time. Do nothing or do whatever you enjoy, but for heaven's sake, and I mean that quite literally, try taking a 24-hour Sabbath rest in your week. It will tell you something about God's hope for your life. Well, that's my view, but what about yours? Call our viewer feedback line or send us an email. We're on Facebook and Twitter. And members of our studio audience today will receive a complimentary book from the Faith Family Books and Gifts. 5 viewer responses also will be randomly selected to receive a free book. So for the team at Context, I'm Lorna Duick. Thanks for watching.